This is our challenge, and this is why here in this hall tonight, better than we've ever done before, we've got to quit talking to each other and about each other and go out and communicate to the world that we may be fewer in numbers than we've ever been, but we carry the message they're waiting for. We must go forth from here united, determined that what a great general said a few years ago is true. There is no substitute for victory. Mr. President.
Heard from President Obama that the war in Syria will be escalated. He now has agreed to send weaponry in to assist the rebels. It's escalation, that's the proper word, because we've already been involved for quite a few months. We've been supporting the rebels for probably the past 2 years, supposedly for humanitarian reasons. But now there's going to be a much more aggressive approach, and we're going to send weapons. There's a few problems with this. First off, it's war. Second thing is, presidents aren't supposed to start war without permission from the people through a congressional declaration of war. And besides, it's not going to do us any good to expand in another war. And now we hear that amongst the rebels are the Al-Qaeda. The Al-Qaeda's in there as well. So this foreign policy we've been following now for so many years is backfiring on us. It's backfiring on us because guess who's helping the rebels besides the United States? The Al-Qaeda from Iraq. Before the Iraq war, there were no Al-Qaeda in Iraq. Now there is, and now they're over there helping, and we think we're going to sort this out after 2 years. The reason this is coming about is the rebels are losing this war, and we've been supporting the rebels, and I don't think it's possible to pick out the good guys here. I mean, there's no way. I think we should pick out the good guys over here, the American people and the American taxpayer, and what's the best for America. And what we're doing here is not best in any way. The one thing that I find rather ironic, because I was very much involved in the lead up of the Iraq war, is the language is the same. They're using the same arguments. Weapons of mass destruction, poison gases, 100 people died. The government has done this. But you know what? They haven't used absolute facts. They haven't even used absolute language. They hedged their terms, and they said, yeah, possibly. A couple of weeks ago, our administration was admitting that some of this poison gas may have come from the rebels themselves. But 100,000 people have died over there, it's estimated. And they're saying maybe 100 or so have died from gas. Possibly. But who did it and when and why, and this is the red line. To me, it's all an excuse. This is, I think, sort of like what Clinton did in 1998 to get people to look at something other than the Lewinsky affair. There's a lot of scandal going on in this country, and it benefits the president to get the people's mind off. Nothing like a scare tactic on foreign policy to get away from the scandals. So this is, I think, really a lot what's happening. Besides, this whole idea, if you think about it, why would President Assad, who's winning the war, use poison gas to kill 100 people, knowing full well what would happen if people thought he was using poison gas? There's no way. The man is not an idiot, and now the assumption is, yes, this is the case. But here, over 100,000 have been killed, but the only thing that counts are these 100. You know, it's sort of like wondering why people aren't concerned about 100 or 200 or 300 killed on a regular basis from a drone missile. Why isn't that the red line? Matter of fact, I think the Al-Qaeda had red lines too. And when they hear that the U.S. drone missiles are killing civilians, they can get pretty annoyed. But we're following down the path of what Bush did leading up into Iraq and what Clinton did, back in 1998 by bombing with his problems. He went and bombed Kandahar in Afghanistan. And they know about this, that this is a diversion tactics. So my concern is what has been my concern for so long. What are we doing there? Why are we there? What will it come of? How will we get out of it? I argued that same case about Iraq, and we're still messing that place up. We've actually had that backfire on us. Iraq now is an ally of the Iranians, and actually still our enemies. But a lot of people say, oh, we have to do it because this is what Israel wants. It may be. Israel may want this. I suspect that's their position. But I think that's a mistake. Not a mistake to be friends with Israel, but a mistake to do it this way. I think Israel's getting themselves into real trouble by supporting all this rebellion going on, whether it's Libya or Egypt or now in Syria and the mess we have in Turkey. This is instability. It cannot help Israel. So good intention, humanitarian instincts, but really what we're doing, and the real tragedy, is that the neocons are winning this battle here at home, and they're controlling our foreign policy. And it's tragic that they are, because polls right now show that 68% of the American people say, don't go in there. We don't need another war.
If the events of this past week were to communicate one thing loud and clear, it is that the time for Glass-Steagall, national banking, and NWAPA has come. But with Barack Obama in the White House, the time that still exists to enact those policies may be swiftly cut short by the thermonuclear conflict with Russia that Obama is committed to. Just yesterday, Russian Prime Minister Medvedev warned unequivocally that nations seeking to usurp the national sovereignty of any nation, especially theirs, that nuclear war is indeed on the table for any such violation.
Это реалии, с которыми мы все должны считаться. И государственной власти придется дать на этот запрос свой, надеюсь, эффективный ответ. Доктрина государственного суверенитета. Она не должна размываться, даже если это удобно для достижения каких-то текущих политических целей. Вплоть до цели избраться на соответствующую позицию. Это просто опасно для мирового порядка. А примеров посягательств на доктрину суверенитета в последние годы было очень немало. Чего стоят и военные операции против иностранных государств в обход Организации Объединенных Наций, заявление о том, что тот или иной политический режим потерял легитимность, причем заявление со стороны иностранных государств, а не со стороны народа соответствующей страны, введение всяческих коллективных санкций в обход международных институтов. Все это не улучшает ситуацию в мире, а последствия скоропалительных военных операций в иностранных государствах обычно заканчивается одним – приходом к власти радикалов. Я уже не говорю, что в какой-нибудь момент такие действия, которые подрывают государственный суверенитет, могут закончиться вполне себе такой полноценной региональной войной. И даже, никого не хочу пугать, с применением ядерного оружия. Об этом должны помнить все.
This statement is an obvious message directed to the Obama administration indirectly and the financial power that controls it. Since the illegal war launched in Libya last year and even the more unlawful assassination of Muammar Gaddafi, the administration has done nothing but show a disgusting abuse of executive power and criminal disregard for domestic and international law, a disregard that nations like Russia and even high-level U.S. military officials view as threats to national sovereignty. Russia has repeatedly stated that that is the issue over military intervention in Syria and Iran. Sovereignty. That is the issue at stake with all the threats occurring at this point. And beyond a shadow of a doubt, it's what's at stake with the joint U.S.-NATO anti-ballistic missile system being built in Europe aimed at Russia. Despite Obama's irrational commitment to war, saner elements in the United States have mounted in and around the U.S. military. Specifically, Representative Walter Jones, in his push for legislation H.C.R. 107, declares that any president who launches war without congressional approval would be immediately subject to impeachment. This was followed by Senator Jim Webb in a restatement he made on the same point in the Senate in his piece of legislation S. 3176 to try to stop a preemptive illegal war. So far, they stand virtually alone, and that in and of itself increases the danger of nuclear war. While Jones's and Webb's legislation is despicably still outstanding in both houses of Congress, the U.S. House of Representatives has passed a resolution on Iran that moves the United States much closer to a war footing against Iran. And as many experts and diplomats like Dan Shapiro, the envoy to Israel from the United States, warn, America is ready to attack. The non-binding resolution H.R. 568 that overwhelmingly passed 401 to 11 effectively calls for a military attack on Iran when it obtains nuclear weapons capability. The vague interpretation already applies to Iran and actually any other country with a civilian nuclear program, and comes at a time when Israeli Defense Minister Ehud Barak is actively urging the international community to increase pressure on Syria, as he says, to strike a further blow to Iran. Colonel Lawrence Wilkerson, former Chief of Staff for the Secretary of State Colin Powell, warned that this resolution reads like the same sheet music that got us into the Iraq War and could be the precursor for a war with Iran. It's effectively a thinly disguised effort to bless war. General Wilkerson is right, and if his and others' warnings are not heeded, whether it's concerning Iran, Syria, or Russia directly, the United States will have violated the rights of a sovereign nation, whose consequences was spelled out by Medvedev yesterday. Those consequences being a thermonuclear war, threatening the annihilation of the entire human species. That is President Obama's commitment. Therefore, there is no discussion of war avoidance policy that does not include removing Barack Obama from office. We have been warned, and the way things are looking now, we will not get another one.
The British Empire's game, run through U.S. President Barack Obama, has been called out by the Russian government. They do not want it, but if pushed, will go to war. It will be thermonuclear war. Therefore, what humanity faces in light of the Obama administration's go-ahead to make the ballistic missile defense system operational based on the completion of Phase 1 on May 20th is possible extinction. Is it inevitable? Only if Barack Obama is not taken out of power. Because if Obama succeeds in his mad drive to force Russia into thermonuclear confrontation, there can be no economic recovery, domestic or international. There will be, possibly, no humanity left on the face of this earth.
And we are trying to
Your
reach that
life
same
depends on the constitutional elimination of his power. Today, on May 17th, Russian Prime Minister Dmitry Medvedev, in the presence of U.S. Attorney General Eric Holder, reiterated Russia's position that the drive coming from the U.S., acting as the geopolitical muscle of the British royal family, can easily lead to nuclear confrontation. Medvedev stated, "There have been many recent examples of the concept of state sovereignty being undermined. Military operations against foreign states bypassing the United Nations, declarations of illegitimacy of certain political regimes. This does not improve the situation in the world, while rash military interference in the affairs of another state usually results in radicals coming to power. Such actions, which undermine state sovereignty, can easily lead to full-scale regional war, even, I am not trying to scare anyone here, with the use of nuclear weapons. Member of the LaRouche PAC endorsed national slate of congressional candidates, Keisha Rogers of the 22nd District of Texas, delivered a sharp message on May 15th while organizing on the ground in Texas that the threat of thermonuclear confrontation with Russia, which we just heard Medvedev warn about, can only be stopped with the nullifying of Obama's powers.
And I will just say that the message that's being sent from Russia and from what we're seeing with the attempts and the drive toward World War III is very clear to Russia and very clear to our U.S. military. The solution is we have to get Obama out now. We have to stop this collapse. And everything that you have to put into this fight. Let's send a message, clear message to the White House. Obama must go. Let's take the nation back, and we can win this fight for mankind. Thank you.
As it stands, Barack Obama has been rejected by the American people. There is no response that will come from this administration on the collapse of the entire world financial system. All American citizens can expect from the Obama party is a showdown of thermonuclear confrontation with Russia. Do we wish to survive? That is the question. Don't simply tell yourself, yes, you want to live. Do what will enable us to live and implement the package to turn the situation around. Dump Obama. Dump him now.